my irritation with atheists is that their belief is a non-belief. And when you write a book about it, you're basically writing a whole book telling a bunch of people who have a genuine, sincere belief in something, I don't believe in what you believe in. You don't actually believe in anything to rival it, from what I can gather. You just don't believe in their belief.
I don't think that's true.
And that's a negative thing, isn't it?
I don't find it negative at all. I find it, that's one of the points of this. I mean, that's one of the important things when people come up to me about atheism, and they do, is that they talk about the bitterness and the having all the answers and the hubris of thinking we can know everything.
You talk about alternatives being, you know, love, family,
of course,
spiritual things, but everyone...
But that's not spiritual.
No, but
that's real.
No, but most people that believe in God also believe in love,
absolutely,
and family, and all the things that you offer as some kind of strange alternative. And by the way, I say this as a huge fan of you as a magician.
Well, thank you.
You've been on America's Got Talent. I think the act is incredible. I urge everyone to go and see it. But when it comes to this particular premise, God, no, you anger me.
Do I really?
Yes.
Do I really anger you?
You do. Because I think it's a deliberately provocative stance you take.
No, not
It's
at all.
designed to annoy and agitate people who have a sincere belief. How did you get here? How did we get here?
Well, let me ask you, how did we get here?
I believe in this superior being, a God.
Of course.
And therefore the questions which always baffle atheists, the hard reality of life, I believe there is something greater out there. There's a greater entity, which is a spiritual being,
but what is
that allows comprehension on a scale we could never understand.
If it's a comprehension...
But if you don't believe in that superior being, what do you think happened?
If it's comprehension on a scale that we can't possibly understand, aren't you done? Why do you need to label that as something that's God or something?
Because I've never heard an atheist explain to me...
Why isn't there a humility to saying, I don't know?
Because I never hear an atheist give me any answers to how did we get here and what happens at the end of our lives.
But the answer to something, saying we can't understand it, is not an answer.
Right, so how do you think we got here?
I don't know.
What do you think happens when you die?
Well, nothing. I think there's
Where do you go?
There's no evidence at all. Where do you go?
Where do you go?
I mean, I think
when you die, you must be terrified of death. That's it,
not at all. Not even slightly.
But what do you think happens to you?
How scared are you of 1890? Does 1890 terrify you?
1890?
1890, yeah.
What are you on about?
You weren't alive. You weren't alive then, right?
No.
You weren't alive. You didn't exist in any way.
No.
Is that a horror to you?
No.
So why is 2090 any worse than that?
I'm not horrified by any thought of dying, because I believe that you go on to a celestial place, which is wonderful.
And
but for you, atheists,
where's your evidence of the celestial place?
Well, because I come back to the issue of creation.
Right.
Where do atheists...
All you have answered with the issue of creation is you've answered... Your answer to... my answer is I don't know, and your answer is something beyond comprehension. Aren't those the same answer?
You cannot write a book basically telling a bunch of people around the world, billions of people, who believe in a God, you're all wrong, but by the way, I don't have any explanations.
They don't either. You don't have an explanation. You said beyond understanding.
Science is taking a theory and challenging it to see if it can stand up.
That's right.
And so while people may not like when the evidence doesn't stand up to further testing, but that's what science is about.
Yes, well, that is what science is about. But there are no cases known to me, at least, where science... Where it doesn't stand up. I mean, there are cases where work needs to be done, and of course science flourishes on finding places where more work needs to be done. That's how science advances.
As you mentioned, what's known to you. And I think that's why we need variety of people looking at theories and challenging it, because if it's one person who's dictating what can be challenged or can't, or what evidence is substantial or not, then we have a dictatorship. In science, scientists should be free to challenge theories and not be hemmed in, not be restricted by the current zeitgeist of those who are almost the high priests of science of that day.
Well, that of course is right. I mean, I agree with that. But can you point to any positive scientific evidence in favor of creation?
I think the fact, as you pointed out, DNA, I think DNA helps to show that each one of us are individuals. And
yes, but they have to be individuals
distinct.
for evolution to work. I mean,
I don't think that's the case. I think that the fact that each one of us are distinct, that no two of us are exactly alike, that helps to show that there is some intervention at the point of each person's creation.
Do you know about the Darwinian theory, that it's about individual variation being selected? There has to be individual variation or Darwinism wouldn't work.
What also seems to be shown in the scientific evidence is that mutations die out. And we don't have good evidence of positive mutations being the ones that are then built on, because if they're a mutation, they're alone. So in order for something to rise up and have more of it, you need to have a good base to choose from. For example, a recessive gene in a person. Both parents may have brown eyes, and yet a child may have blue eyes. And that's because there's enough of the gene in their ancestors to have brought out that recessive gene.
And that's evidence against evolution?
I think that helps to show the individual nature of each person. That God created us with genes, with DNA, and that He will even use that to show His creative element in each person. The fact that you can have two people, a man and a woman, could have 13 children, 16 children, and each one is completely distinct from one another. That shows that even though they came from a common parentage, that yet there's still a creative element for each one of those human beings.
Do you actually know what Darwin's theory of natural selection is?
I think I know enough, because it gets pounded into us by those who simply won't allow for other information, that don't want other information to come forward.
I won't do any pounding, but just let me tell you what it is. There is individual variation. Every individual, apart from monozygotic twins, is different from every other individual. That's absolutely fundamental to the Darwinian theory. Now, what happens is that among that variety of individuals, some survive better than others, some reproduce better than others. That's how we get evolution. You couldn't have evolution unless there was individual variation. You must not keep thinking that because there's individual variation, that's somehow evidence against evolution.
So I'm just curious what you do with our founding fathers' words that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Yeah, he also uses self-evident. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Yes, they do talk about a creator, and it is very rare to find an atheist before Darwin. You have a lot of people. If I were around in 1776, I would probably be referred to as a deist. And the basic idea of a deist is that there is no interventionist God, there's no God you can pray to, there's no God that does anything now, but there is a prime mover. Because there's too many mysteries. And atheists often refer to the God of the margins, which is, as time goes on, we put less and less on God and more on things that we find out.
What's first cause?
That's me. That's the prime mover now. There's a great book out by Lawrence Krauss called Why There's Something Instead of Nothing. And there's stuff in particle physics that is giving us real information on the very first, we've got it down to the first billionth of a second. Before that, we don't know. And you just keep pushing back that margin. So to say creator or to say deity in those times was very reasonable.
To say first cause to you, that shouldn't bother you, because you don't know what first cause was.
The biggest misconception on atheism is that atheism is, in a phrase, I don't know. And
I thought that was agnostic.
No, agnostic. It's two different things. Agnostic answers the epistemological question about knowledge. Can we have knowledge? And then you're agnostic if you think two ways to look at it. One, you don't know, but more accurately, you can't know. There are questions you cannot know.
Okay.
There are questions that are beyond us that we can't know. Once you don't know, you don't actively believe. So I use the word atheist out of respect for my Christian friends who believe that belief is active. So if I don't have an active belief, then I am an atheist. So the question agnostic answers is, can it be known? And then the question that atheist answers is not, is there a God? It's, do you believe in God? Do you actively believe in God? So I don't know is the answer. So as soon as you say, how did the world get here? And I answer, I don't know. Even though scientists have got a lot of information, I still don't know.
Well, so where do we get our morals from? It can't be from the Bible, because almost nobody obeys, certainly not the Old Testament, and most of the New Testament. I mean, death penalty for adultery, there goes half of Congress. I mean, nobody is going to do this, right? So we pick and choose, we cherry pick from the holy books based on something else that's happened that I referenced in my opening statement of there's been this other change that's happened, this secularization of morality. That is, you have to actually have good reasons for why you hold certain moral principles, and you should be able to articulate them. And so that's been the change there. So even if you and I both listen to the still small voice within to decide what's right or wrong, Dinesh, I'm claiming you're not getting it from the Bible, and I'm not either. We're getting it from somewhere else. I think we've evolved this propensity to have moral emotions, and then culture tweaks them, and we've been getting progressively more moral. But we get this a lot. You know, how do you explain this or that? I think people's experiences are real, absolutely. I think most people don't just make up stories, although some do. Most people, when they describe some miraculous, fantastic spiritual experience that they've had, they really mean it. Now, so the question is, what does it represent? Something out there in the world or something inside the brain? Well, we now know enough about neuroscience to know that the brain does generate a lot of these kind of spiritual experiences, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, sense presences, hallucinations, delusions. There's whole books about this, and so the experiences are real. What we want to know as scientists is, well, what do they actually represent? I mean, we know we can replicate these in the lab by doing certain things and causing people's brains to have these experiences. So most likely, the what's more likely question, that it's out there or that it's in here, the overwhelming evidence is that they're in here.
I have a religious and spiritual belief, which I find...
I don't think it's a belief.
Which I find comforting in the way that I do prayer and faith. It is a belief.
But faith is different.
It is a belief. You believe in God. Your belief is a non-belief. It's an anti-belief. You don't have a belief. You just don't believe that what I believe is right.
Let me just ask you, do you believe in Thor?
Thor?
Yeah, Thor.
No, because that's not the type of God that I believe in.
Okay, but you are an atheist on every single God except the one you happened to be taught when you were a child. On everything else, you're an atheist. Everything you believe is a negation of every other God that's ever existed. I don't think you can
compare Thor to God.
Why?
Because it's not the same thing, and you know it isn't. You're just being deliberately perverse.
Okay, well, pick any God. Is there any God that other people believe?
I think a soccer player called Thierry Henry is godlike. You can't equate him to God.
Okay. So you are saying that all the Muslim God, the God of Hindu, the gods of Catholics and Protestants are all the same God, even though there's different rules?
No, but I have an absolute respect for anybody from any religion that has a spiritual and religious conviction and belief in a godlike entity in their lives. You have a week to live.
Okay.
And you have 2 young children.
Yes, I do.
And you need to explain to them what's going to happen to Daddy. What do you say? To comfort them in this terrible time.
I don't think to comfort them I lie to them, and I don't think I have the immodesty to say that I know. I say that they'll miss me, and I hope they remember me. I have lost my mom, my dad, and my sister. The love will live on as long as I will. There will not be a second in my life that I will not love my mom, my dad, my sister, and everybody that I've loved that's died.
My question is for Mr. Gillette. I liked how you framed the definition of atheist. I had never thought about that, and it's giving me something to think about. And I also appreciated hearing your explanation about why you oppose like nativity scenes on public property. Could you also comment about what you think about the 10 Commandments being displayed on public property and how that...
It's the same thing. You know, well, one of the ways Glenn and I get to know each other more was him asking me to write an atheist 10 Commandments. And there is a lot of arguments, and very reasonable ones, that morality is more important than religion. When you say the sentence, God is good, you have automatically said that there is a morality outside of God. And that's a morality that we all share. And I think that trying to put that in a Judeo-Christian context in a courthouse does leave people out. It's what all I want is for more people to be included in more things. And that courthouse should really belong to everybody. So let's put as few things in that are exclusive and as many things in as are inclusive. It's a conservative issue. This is all painted as though it were a progressive issue, and it's really not. It's a conservative issue. A true conservative believes that the government should be out of as much as possible, and there should be individual freedom. And they're also a true Protestant, especially, or Mormon, believes very strongly in an individual relationship with God, which means you have, in an ideal Protestant world, you have over 300 million different views of God in the United States of America. You can't fit those all in City Hall. So the best thing, as you said very well, we should just keep the state out of it. And you should be able to. Look at all the property you have here. Put a creche over there. Put a nativity scene over there. Tattoo things all over your body about God.
So what you're saying is, because
it's only stuff I pay for that I'm bothered by.
Right.
A Roman Catholic Church which preaches that women are vessels of temptation, which insists on celibacy, that makes sex a matter of guilt and shame, that is composed of an all-male priesthood, the whole practice of which is based on a sexual repression. What do you think is going to happen to the children in the care of those people? Don't act surprised. They don't act surprised. They knew it was going on all the time. And they covered up for it. Where is cardinal law, may I ask you? Former prince of the church in these United States. Why is he in Boston Laity? You want to know this? Why is he not in the top? Because he's in the Vatican. Because he's fled the jurisdiction and been given a sinecure at the Church of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome, and voted in the conclave to produce the next pope, the holder of the keys of Peter, the vicar of Christ on earth. This man who ran a racket of child abuse, why do we call it abuse? Of the rape and torture of children for generations, decades, and across a wide swathe of the country. And it's not in spite of his religion, it's because of it. And I think it's evasive to pretend otherwise.